In late 1941, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. To show power, dominance, and officially end the war, the United States dropped the first two atomic bombs ever on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, thus shifting the delicate balance of the world from peace to stern doom. Due to the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, military strategies went from on-ground units to missiles that could destroy major cities. This significant event is the biggest turning point in history, changing how people view destruction and power. Democratic President Franklin D. Roosevelt has been sent a letter by Albert Einstein and other scientists, warning the president about the dangers of starting a nuclear project. President Roosevelt has taken into consideration what the letter had told him, but the president still pushed forward the new nuclear program project called the Manhattan Project. There would be multiple places where the research for the atomic bomb would take place: Hanford, Washington, Los Alamos, New Mexico, and Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Tens of thousands of people would move to these towns, mainly military people and scientists. There was a second option to the bomb, though. The United States had thought of a possible plan to storm Japan. This was a death sentence. According to the National United States Military, Operation Downfall would have possibly caused up to 3 million U.S. casualties and a possible 800,000 deaths. Japan might have had up to 5 million deaths if Operation Downfall took place. This Operation Downfall was the second option to using the bomb, but most officials said that this storm would have possibly been more destructive than the two bombs combined, changing the way people view all-out assaults. So, how did the atomic bombing run take place? So about 12 o'clock in the morning, trucks pulled up to the Enola Gay with the Little Boy bomb. They loaded it into the Enola Gay and they took flight around 2:45 in the morning. They flew for 4 hours straight until they even got anywhere near Hiroshima. They're about 9,000 feet in the air, but then they ascended to 31,000 feet due to the atomic bomb radius. And at around 9:14 in American time, they flew over Iowa Bridge, which was the target because of the bomb would be dropped above there and detonate about 31,000 feet above the bridge. A sequence was then started where they activated the bomb, and it was dropped. In 44 seconds, it would go off, giving the team just enough time to get away from the blast radius. Then, once the bomb went off, nuclear fission began at 0.15 microseconds. And after 0.1 seconds, the fireball expanded to 100 feet in diameter, emitting over 500,000 degrees Fahrenheit of temperature. 1.5 seconds after the bomb was dropped and exploded, everyone was incinerated because it was just so much heat, and at 1 second beyond, only 7,000 degrees of Fahrenheit temperature was then released and the mustard cloud began to form. So basically they dropped it above the city so it could burn everything down below it, making it a very effective military weapon to destroy places. However, these atomic bombs were different from nuclear bombs because they wouldn't make a crater. They would just flatten out the area because it was mainly just fire and burning everything down. The flight crew of Enola Gay was barely able to make it out, and some of the crew members even said that they could taste things like lead and metals in their mouths once the bomb went off, and they said this was the most extravagant event ever. The US would also intercept a message from the Japanese reporting to Tokyo and, quote, a violent large special type bomb giving the appearance of magnesium, end quote. The Japanese had no idea what was happening. They heard rumors, but they never actually knew this was going to happen. The story of Nagasaki on August 9th was a little bit more different though, as their primary target was not Nagasaki. Their first target was Kokura Arsenal. But after flying over Kokura, they could not see. There was too many clouds, it was too invisible, so they decided to go somewhere else, and just not too far away was the town of Nagasaki. But now, by this time, the planes were starting to run out of fuel, so they had one chance to make this bombing run successful. So as they flew over Nagasaki, they barely found a decent drop point and dropped the bomb 1,650 feet over the city. Now, in terms of the bomb, Fat Man was the same as Little Boy, as they both got to the same degree of heat. as according to nuclearmuseum.org, 263,000 people were killed in Nagasaki, about 240,000 residents, 9,000 soldiers, and 400 prisoners of war. About 40,000, 70,000 people died immediately, while another 60,000 people suffered severe injuries and they did die later on in their lifetime. Now, some people believe that Japan had no idea the attack was coming. President Truman, though, had spoken on many occasions about the atomic bomb, and he said this was completely false. Truman said that Americans had dropped leaflets and went and talked with the locals up front. Truman said that if Japan would just given up and threw in the white towel, America wouldn't have dropped Fat Man and Little Boy. But Truman felt a little bit of remorse for Japan, but officials said that he probably would have still dropped the bomb no matter what unless they have complied and completely given up on the war. This attack was a response to show that Americans don't back down from anyone and to show what the new age of war meant. And there were survivors from the nuclear attacks, Sasuke being one of those people that are most known. Sasuke barely survived the atomic bombing of Hiroshima. She kept on crawling out of the rubble because her mind kept on saying, "See the light, see the light." Sasuke had set up a program where she wanted countries to stop the production of nuclear weapons. She didn't want this pain on anyone. She said it was completely terrible. The amount of time for her rehabilitation was astronomical. She had built up a foundation to rebel against nuclear weapons, and though some countries would stop their nuclear programs, some would not and keep on building. But Sasuke, for putting in the time and stuff, she got a Nobel Peace Prize for trying to bring countries together. With the first drop of the atomic bombs, there's been a scare that has happened around the world. Even today with Russia, Korea, and other countries, there was a true shift for military strategies, like not having infantry troops go into hazardous areas. Instead, large missiles will rain down from the sky, leveling and decimating the area around it. Or tanks and machines can go in instead of having hundreds of thousands of troops go in for an all-out assault, saving the lives of the attackers, but the defenders not so much as they would start to die. However, scientists have predicted that if one nuke goes off, one atomic bomb, every country will start firing back at will and the end of the world will commence. With Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic attacks, the world is always put into certain doom from this day forward. Military might has changed from the strength of men to the strength of missiles and machines. The race for global dominance is just the race for nuclear weapons.